Welcome, sadhakas. We are initiating ourselves to be parallel with Vedic Sthapatya foundational base of Adi Valmiki Ramayana text. Adi Valmiki Ramayana is a complete scripture. This scripture is the fifth Veda. Pancham Ved, Pancham Brahm is the transcendental sum up of the four manifested Vedas, organization of knowledge of the existence phenomenon. Adi Valmiki Ramayana, with its Vedic Sthapatya foundation, is taking us to the transcendental features of Ardhanareshwar, the organization of the transcendental domain, five-space domain, hypercube of 5, as a synthetic setup of a pair of transcendental domains, is the feature which takes us to Divya Kalap, transcendental content. Today, we will be exposing ourselves to Divya Kalap, transcendental content. The transcendental content is the feature and is the setup for the values, for comprehension and imbibing of the values by the transcendental mind, having placement at the origin of the manifested creations. One shall place oneself at the origin of manifested domain and sequentially transcend to melt one's mental states. To begin with, we have to place ourselves at the origin of a three-space. The origin of three-space is four-space in the role of origin. The origins are compactified. The origins permit inward transcendence. Four-space origin takes us to five space as an origin of a four-space. Therefore, at first phase and stage, we shall be transcending from three-space domain to four-space domain through four-space as origin of a three-space. At next phase, we will be transcending at the origin of a four-space, and we will be having a reach within five-space. Five-space plays the role of origin of a four-space. Once we will be in five-space, then phase and stage will arise for further transcendence to six-space domain. It would mean a transcendence at the origin of a five-space and the reach at the origin of six-space, that is seven-space, playing the role of origin of a six-space, is the initiation reach. Once we will be having such initiation, and once we will be at the origin of a six-space, then further comprehension of chase of Vedic order will begin. The beginning of chase parallel with Vedic systems comes with having a placement at origin of a six space. It is what makes Ramayana. It is what makes the knowledge of Vishnu Lok. It makes the knowledge of a Surya. It makes the knowledge of existence phenomenon within human frame. Therefore, a reach from 4 space as an origin of a 3 space to 7 space as an origin of 6 space is the initiation phase and stage only. The real pilgrimage begins hence here from the reach to be parallel with the Vedic order, Vedic systems, Vedic knowledge, Vedic enlightenment is going to be with the transcendence at the origin of 6 space itself. Therefore, for this initiation, we have to visit the Adi Valmiki Ramayana, which preserves its sequential phases and stages for the final finished text of Adi Valmiki Ramayana itself. Adi Valmiki Ramayana, in its first kand, Balkand itself, in its very first sarga, is preserving as to the values and features which were shared by Narad Muni with Adi Valmiki Ramayana. The formulation Narad is of TC value 21. The value 21 parallel with Narad is 10 plus 11. Value 10 is the summation value of 4 folds of hypercube 3 of full unit, while value 11 is the summation value of 4 folds of hypercube 3 of half unit. This is the value of the origin of 3 space, that is 4 space. On the computer screen in the first row is having sequential depiction of these features. Formulation Narad, TC value 21, its geometric format as H3 plus H3, it being the feature of expression at the origin seat of the 3 space Shila. A step ahead is Brahma. Brahma, creator, the supreme, had further shared the values of this Vishnu Lok phenomenon with Valmiki Rishi. The supplemented values shared by Brahma are the values which one will glimpse and imbibe while one will have a seat at the origin of a 4 space. Formulation Brahma is of TC value 29. Value 29 is of organization 14 plus 15. This is parallel with the geometric format of hypercube 4 of full unit and hypercube 4 of half unit. This is the origin of 4 space. That is 5 space as origin of 4 space is the depiction of this phase and stage of enlightenment. Step ahead, Shri Bhagwan, Lord Vishnu as Shri Bhagwan. The formulation Shri Bhagwan is of TC value 37. value 37 is of organization 18 plus 19. Value 18 is the summation value of 4 folds of hypercube 5 of full unit, while value 19 is the summation value of 4 folds of hypercube 5 of half units. This takes us to be parallel with 6 space as origin of a 5 space. And finally, now Brahm 45, 22 plus 23, hypercube 6 of full unit together with hypercube 6 of half unit. This, that way, makes us parallel with 7 space in the role of 6 space, and same is the phase and stage of a takeoff to be parallel with Vedic order. Sadhakas fulfilled with intensity of urge to be parallel with Vedic systems, Vedic order, Vedic knowledge, Vedic enlightenment, Vedic mathematics, Vedic sciences, Vedic technologies, and the Vedic scriptures having reached us, shall sit comfortably and to permit the transcending mind to have sequential stages from 3 space domain to origin of 3 space, then from 4 space domain to origin of 4 space, further from 5 space domain to origin of 5 space, still ahead from 6 space domain to origin of a 6 space. It is this initiation reach which is needed. The takeoff is to be from this phase and stage. For it, let us revisit the formulations Darvya, Shabad, Divya, Atma, and Nad. These 5 formulations are taking us to phase and stage of takeoff carriers. Now, for it, first of all, have a revisit to the formulation Kalp. The formulation Kalp takes us to Kalp Vedang. And when Kalp Vedang is chased within creator's space as Ka Brahma, then Kalp becomes a formulation of TC value 16 and 10 folds of formulation Kalp, as is the tabulation on the computer screen, will sequentially take us to 1, 2, 5, 16, 42, 116, 58, 54, 130, and 276, making total summation value 700. Let us have a pause. This value 700 is the format for 700 shlokas of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. 700 shlokas are the shlokas and vachas of Srimad Durga Saptasati. 700 shlokas of Siddhisthanam of Charp Sahita. As such, we have to have appreciation of the TC values of formulations Darvya, content, Shabad, word, Divya, transcendental, Atma, soul, Nad is sound. These 5 words are taking us to the values 754, 723, 702, 796, 776 for their 10 folds. And these values, when are to be evaluated in the context of value 700 as well as in the context of value 745, which is the value of the enlightenment of the text of 700 shlokas of Srimad Bhagavad Gita as is preserved in Pariman shlokas of Bhisham Parva of Urma Bhartam. Therefore, sadhakas fulfilled with intensity of urge to be parallel with Vedic systems shall initiate themselves so that first they are parallel with these formulations, TC values, folds, and the formats of 700 value for Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Durga Saptasati, and Siddhisthana Bhavchark Stotam. Here we are now having tabulations for these 5 formulations. On the computer screen is the formulation Darvya. Its 10 folds are tabulated. The 10 folds of TC value Darvya 17 is 754, which is 9 more than 75. Now, the formulation Shabad, which also is of TC value 17, but its 10 folds take us to value 723. And we know 723 is 23 more than 700, and 23 itself is the summation value of hypercube 6 of half unit, while this value is less than 745 by 22 units, which is parallel with the summation value of 4 folds of hypercube 6 of full unit. So Shabad is at placement which is hypercube 6 ahead of 700 sculpt and is 22 units less than that of the Gita Pranam Shloka value. This placement for the Shabad is the placement which deserves to be comprehended well, to be parallel with Vedic knowledge, which has reached us in a speaking language. Step ahead, let us have a visit to the formulation Divya, transcendental. The formulation Divya as well is of TC value 17, but its 10 folds take us to value 702, which is 2 more than 700. So 700 as dimension will take us to transcendental domain, to Divya. This transcendental reach is the enlightenment of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. A step ahead, the formulation Atma, being, is the value 694 for the TC value 17 for Atma, and it is 6 less than 700, and 6 is a Surya Ank. 6 is the Surya Ank. Therefore, for Atma to be Paramatma, we have to put being, that is Jeev, on that pilgrimage path. 17 as a range is having 16 as gaps, and value 6 as 6 space content gives us a split spectrum, 6, 4, 4, 2, 16. So Atma is having Jeev within it, and the Jeev is the value of 6 space content. One shall sit comfortably and to permit the mind to comprehend and imbibe the value of Nad TCV 17, but the summation value of its 10 folds is 676, which is 24 less than 700. 24 is the TC value of a Purusha, and 676 is the transcendence spectra range format for 7 space as origin of 6 space, transcending from within 6 space. So not so the Vedic sounds are of such potentialities, and because of these potentialities we have to have shelter of the same. So the mantras, so the Vedic sounds. So from next session, we shall be initiating ourselves how and in which way the Vedic sounds, the Shabdanad, are going to be the only mathematical carriers with us, and we have to ride these carriers, our intelligence bits and consciousness impulses have to be parallel with these Vedic sounds. Thank you very much.